going on, everyone? So we're going to continue with our speed development theme today a little bit. Kind of a little bit more of a vain question, but you get it a lot. I work with primarily younger athletes, so you get a lot of the kind of physique questions that get associated with some of the sports performance work that we do. And one of those is, do sprints build abs? Hell yeah. That's the quickest answer. Could end the video here. Hell yeah. Sprints work your entire body. It is ultimately, really, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful movements human beings are capable of doing. It requires complete focus, complete maximal energy, and it is something that takes a lot of time to develop. I know some athletes are obviously gifted with that attribute out the gate, but yes, sprints do build your abdominals in some capacity, right? I mean, from a bodybuilding hypertrophy standpoint, no, we're not doing crunches here. But you'll notice when you sprint, right, oftentimes your whole body is sore, a lot in the core. Why is that? Well, we're stabilizing, right? As we're sprinting, sprints are largely a single leg exercise. That's the kind of the common thing used in the strength and conditioning world. We're not hopping down as we sprint on the field, court, or track. We are propelling ourselves one leg at a time. It's a series of small plyometrics, so to speak, small little jumps. But yes, right, the core is engaged, the core is activated. It's stabilizing the torso. When we're in the acceleration phase, right, we're much more at an angle, right? We always say we want to push. That's the push part of the sprint. When we really want to get athletes kind of head down, knees not breaking parallel, and we want to basically just be pushing. Well, right, in order to maintain that upright posture, essentially that's largely your core, right? I don't really like using the term abs, but this was kind of a physique question that a lot of younger athletes ask. But your core is having to stabilize you when you're in the acceleration phase, right? It's plain and simple. Now, as we move into max velocity, right, the more traditional, when you see the finish line sprinting in the 100 meters and we watch that, right, when athletes are more upright. Well, when we're upright, obviously the core has to be there as well. How are we maintaining that upright posture? Stabilization, right? Vertical forces, horizontal forces are all being at play when we're sprinting. So the core is having to adjust. There's going to be dealing with some rotation, right? We're not actually just perfect athletes like this, right? We are twisting and rotating. The hips are moving. The hips are moving in isolation of even some of the upper body, right? There's a synergistic component, but there's different things happening all at the same time depending on what part of the body we're focusing on, right? Ground reaction forces in the foot, knee drive with the legs, the hips and the glutes and the hamstrings producing all of that force, but the core is involved, right? And it's stabilizing and it's allowing energy transfer. So when we look at the sprint, it is realistically probably the highest intensity thing that athletes are going to be expected to do. Okay, we're working in a nervous system component here, right? But it's 100% recruitment of muscle fibers, 100% neural activation to the best of that athlete's abilities, and we are going for very, very, very short durations with high intensities. So how could it really not work the abs is the question we really have to ask. But they're not working in an actual largely movement capacity, right? And in strength and conditioning right now, everything with abdominals is anti-rotation, anti-flexion, all these things. So that's largely in a functional state what the core is doing during the sprint, right? It is stabilizing, it is allowing for transfer of energy, there's a protective component to that stabilization, right, for the spine, and it's basically in that high intensity function getting worked in that very short duration, just like the rest of the musculature while we sprint. If it's a 10-yard sprint, then you're probably sprinting anywhere from a little under a second to, some of the younger athletes in the 2.5, even 3-second range, right? Those are the young guys. But, okay, well, in that time frame, you are experiencing largely just acceleration, but you're experiencing that high intensity neural activation. Okay, the sprinting is really less of a muscular exercise than a nervous system exercise, but The muscles themselves are doing work, and they will get sore. You really hardly ever see a high-level sprinter or a very fast athlete without abdominals, visible six-pack. There's a couple components to that, right? I've already addressed that they are being worked at very, very high intensities, almost to their highest capacity during the sprint itself, but also speed is largely related to body composition, right? You have excess fat that's not necessary for performance, you're not able to display the utmost of your abilities when it comes to speed. So typically you'll see athletes that are very conscious of body composition, outside of the fact that sprinting itself does have a lot of caloric demand to perform the activity and post-exercise oxygen consumption. So you're going at that high intensity, so you're going to burn a lot of calories in a short amount of time, as opposed to something like steady state jogging where the intensity is far lower, so we have to do the activity longer to burn an equivalent amount of calories. So all around, sprinting is a phenomenal exercise for athletes. I recommend every athlete make it almost the probably top priority for them from a performance fitness standpoint, depending on their attributes and what talents they were gifted. But it requires tons of commitment. It's definitely going to build a nice, strong physique. But more importantly, here's the real thing. If you're an athlete, why are you asking questions about your physique or your abs, right? Everybody wants it, I understand, but we're chasing performance here. So yes, while sprints will lead to a nice physique, nice body, build your abdominals, ultimately what we're chasing here when we do sprinting activity for the most part, especially in our athletic population, is performance. Domination on the field, the ability to score more goals, score more touchdowns, get separation if you're an offensive player, or take space away if you're a defensive player. So that's it. Think that over. Hope this answer helped. And if you have any more questions, just feel free to shoot me an email. You can post something in the comments, and I'll be putting out more videos on speed here in the coming weeks. See you guys next one.